How's everything going? Okay, let's make sure all the streams are up and going. So that's good. That one's good. And that one's excellent. All right. Let's do this thing, my friends. Okay. What we're doing is we're going into a game of Hikaru Nakamura. He's playing as black. It's a French defense. And Sergey Karjakin is actually white. And it's a longer game. One sec, let me just get a drink, and then we'll get started. Okay, so what happens is it goes to like a move 125. So this is an end game. This is good end game study, everything. So let's do it. Oops, there we go. Let's do it. E4, E6, D4, D5, knight C6, F. Oops, sorry, I gotta turn the board for you so you can see it from black side. And then E5. There we go. It's the classic variation of the Steinitz. Knight F, D7. This prepares to play. You guys know the move. Yes, you do. It is the move C5 and F6. Correct. Great job, my friends. Excellent. You're doing wonderful. And so that's that idea. That's why F4 was played. Remember, we studied a line where this morning, the last stream, they played knight to C6 here. Knight C knight C E2, and then white and then black played member C5. If you watched that stream, they were the opponent played his opponent played this. It was Pods was black, and Mecca was white. And what they were saying is that this would have actually been the best move in the position for equality would have been c3 and then later on playing f4. But they didn't play that. But in this line, Karjakin is just going for the f4 line. This is the main line in the Steinitz variation, classic of French. So c5 here, knight f3. Then there's bishop c6. There's no reason to take this right away. If there was a threat of c, let's say the knight somehow got over here, and there was a threat of c3. Let's say the knight moved instead of here, over here. Let's say the knight moved over here, and well, I'll just do it. Hikaru wouldn't be playing this move here. This is a no. He would take this and then drop his knight in. Something similar to this. Very similar to this. Maybe not exactly, but very similar for one reason. Remember the whole idea about the French defense is for white is they want to hold these two pawns here in the center. If they could trade this pawn off for that pawn and this pawn for this pawn here, and then they keep this bind here, they have a wonderful, wonderful game. And they have a super duper powerful game. And that's the whole idea based on why they sometimes play c3 here. So just in case c takes d4, c takes d4, and they reunite this strong center. And that's the whole idea basic of the play. But so I just wanted to show you guys that. Then he goes here. Then see again, there's no threat of worrying about a C3 thrust, so Nakamura can develop without any problems. He's happy. Bishop E3 here. Bishop E3 is preparing for knight takes, pawn takes, knight takes, knight takes, bishop takes, or maybe even queen takes. Either there might be a queen takes in the work, like if knight takes, pawn takes, and then queen takes. White could actually have castle queenside here, and then try to play against black's kingside advantage because of they have an extended pawn already. They'll go something like g4, h4, f5, and then they'll just start slowly but steadily marching these guys and disintegrating this side here. Because a lot of the times black castles kingside, but sometimes white will actually castle kingside. It all depends. Whatever, some players feel spunky, and if they feel like they have enough power, they'll knock you out with a castle on the opposite side. So Hikaru takes. So this is the main line, and then queen to b6. This is a big move here. He played queen to d2. He's allowing this. Remember we talked about this move here. Hikaru went down this line before. Hey, how you doing? And yeah, so here you go. And then that's that move here. Rook b1, and then what would happen is the queen comes out. This was actually played in one of the former games between Topalov as white and um, Hikaru Nakamura as black. He played this line, but Topalov was able to win that game, and it went. I think Nakamura this was a later game, and so he probably took it back and put it into his engine, and then learned from this line here, and he ended up pulling a draw from Sergey Karjakin. So knight and then rook bishop b5 here allows for the attack of the this attacks the knight and prepares to actually win a pawn. So if knight takes, pawn takes, bishop takes. So the knight has to actually indirectly has to take here. This is actually forcing more exchanges for white, which is in theory somewhat helping black. It's actually helping black a little bit by getting rid of these pawns. They're menacing the setup of white here. So it's just like it's really interesting. It's a give and take because excuse me, white wanted to have a pawn chain like this, but it's lacking one of the pawns. And so that's the whole idea. And then if you take, so pawn takes, and then you're left with not a very ideal position because nothing to hold this e pawn if you try to like break on the king side. So slight advantage for white, maybe almost no advantage. I'm thinking it's equal here. So it's you gotta always look at those. Knight takes was forced, like we talked about. Bishop takes. You're probably wondering why queen doesn't take. Well, the queen's actually ideally placed at the present moment. The queen has after taking, the queen has the ability of eventually actually after castles, of course, bishop takes and then castles. White might play f5 here, and the queen would be wonderfully placed to go to g5. That'd be a very sweet spot, and that would cause a lot of headaches for black. And so that's why black doesn't. Black will probably try to fight against the queen going there, maybe and play like h6, something like that. This was actually a really good move. I like Hikaru's move of a6 here. A6 is really strong because what he's planning on doing is after pushing is he's going to go b5 here, and then this will prevent white from having a knight infiltration into two critical points, which is a4 and b5, and that's a very important move. That does a couple things. It prepares an advance, and it prevents a lot of white's infiltration on the queen side, and it also relieves that potentially this pawn will eventually become weak on a2, and so Hikaru can actually aim to kick a piece out that was there and take the a pawn, and then have a majority past a pawn of his own. So you have to always be looking at that. So he takes. Sergey, some of us would have probably retreated back, but Sergey looked far enough into the future and thought to himself, if I get rid of this knight, how many real pieces does black have for activity? his most active piece at the present moment is his knight on d7. So if Sergey got rid of the knight, he'd have to develop these two bishops, and these two bishops don't really have any good scope. And Sergey's actually, even though his development kind of looks kind of sketchy at the moment, he's more developed than Hikaru. Majority of Hikaru's pieces are back at home base, and Sergey is one move away from castling. So after, oops, sorry about that, my bad. Let's get back here. Sorry about that, my bad there. He takes here. I apologize. Sorry about that. That was my thing. What if black moves the bishop to b4? B4 here. Interesting. Are you talking about this move after if a6 hadn't been played and the bishop moved to b4? That's not a bad move actually. So it's a really good strong. That's a strong move, a very strong move. Congratulations on finding that. That's actually a really good move because of one idea. It pins this knight, and it also threatens to win a pawn. So this is a very good job on finding that move. Bishop b4 is actually very. I gotta give you 5. That's 5. If I could, I would do like on upload bling, and they do the 5 stars. I'm gonna give you 5 stars on that one. Congratulations on that. Excellent work. Because if white plays like castles here, this is just a theoretical line, and then the queen takes, you can actually grab this. It's actually losing, I think. It's like 4 pawns, so I think you actually lose here. I don't know if that's. Oh, okay, wow, yeah, it's equal by grabbing, so maybe not grabbing. Let me see what would actually. Let me take this back and see what would actually be the best continuation. Oh, black. They want okay. Castles is best. Yeah, you got to be careful that you don't walk into a. You got to be careful that you don't walk into like a idea of a threat of getting your queen lost. That'd be horrible. So you have to kind of wait for a moment, and after f5 here, actually f5 here, because remember they're wanting to get their attack going. So we're talking about just a sideline, a subline here that is optimum, basically equal for both sides. E takes f right here would be an equal idea. What you're doing is you're getting rid of the ability for white to actually play f6. Yeah, you're saying, but isn't black's whole idea about keeping this kind of central idea and then playing around it after he just basically obliterates white's center? Yeah, I've won many of games by obliterating these 2 pawns here. But the problem is sometimes you have to just, as they say, bite the bullet and make a good position out of a bad position. And the best move here is actually e takes f5, because it allows, even though there's a couple moves that could be played, which would be rook takes f5. That's not the best continuation. There's actually a line where there's rook f3 and there's rook b3. This move probably would be one of my choices here. Rook b3 would probably be a good what I would choose. It'd be tempting to grab this pawn, but then you'd have to ask yourself one question: is it worth allowing knight to c6 or potentially bishop takes pawn, bishop takes knight? See, if this gets taken, the knight gets taken, and at that point, I don't know if it's worth going down that. Well, we'll just take a quick look. If this gets taken here, I'm thinking bishop takes. Bishop? Nope, it's not bishop. We were right. Nice, we were right. It was knight c5. Okay, we're thinking right. Good job, guys. Good work on that one. Knight to c5, and then now you're having all the pieces join the party. Oops, all these pieces are joining the party now. Every piece, the light square bishop that was black's bad bishop is now active. The dark square bishop that was that was black's good bishop is good, and so everything's good. The knight's good, the bishop's, so every piece is good except we have to remember, never forget. I used to have a problem with that, but I don't anymore. I'm very thankful for a lot of my grandmasters teachers being patient with me in this. I used to leave a rook in the corner. Yeah, and that those were my new upcoming years before I got good at chess, better at chess, and the Lord blessed me with being able to see further. And I used to leave either an A rook or an H rook in the corner. But eventually, what happened was I saw through game development, gameplay, positions that they showed me that allowed me to say, you mean if I involve all my pieces, I could create an art like Bob Ross, will just he'll just flick a little bit of a tree. He says a tree feels good right here, and he could just paint a tree, and he knows exactly where to put it, where a lake is, where grass should be, a house, all that, and it's in your mind. And when you start getting these games into your mind, you start seeing the position just appears. How my grandmaster teachers taught me was that it's like having a if you ever seen a game where there's a blinking square, and you'll start to be able to see the correct spots to drop your pieces into, the board will automatically, when it's your turn, you'll just go like this when you realize you'll know exactly what piece to move where when you start seeing these positions, and it'll open a whole new world to you, my friends. So that's why studying like games is vital, and looking at them, doing your best, making then checking it with, make sure you do your best, then check it with the engines, because if you just do engine play, you're not going to get, yeah, it is crazy. And if you do get if you don't get if you get used to doing engines, I got Twitter pated there for a second, then what'll happen is you won't be able to have creative thought. You won't be able to think outside the box. You'll be more, they say, just engine like, which some players can do that, and they could just memorize like gazillions of lines. So if you could do that, more power, go for it. But I like looking at positions, having patterns in my head, having different positions that I want to have for my knight, where I want to optimize them. Most of us have the ability of taking like snapshots of, like, when you take a snapshot from like your phone or something, it just takes that. If you could start making those and then putting them into your brain, those different positions you learn, and you just keep putting those in there, you'll start accumulating more and more move ideas, and then what'll happen is you'll be able to spot those on the board, and you'll say, ah, the piece naturally belongs here because it reminds me of, you know, pattern such and such, maybe pattern 85 that I learned out of my 500 patterns that I know. And so that's kind of why we go over these games, is to see how certain French openings will basically evolve into certain different setups. And so now that we've seen how strong B4 is, we're going to go back to see what was actually played, by why at that point why Sergey actually took the knight. At this point here, rather than allowing the bishop to come in, which was best, Hikaru, we should say see why Hikaru played a6 here, is he wants him more out of the position. See, that would be going down more of a positional line, and so Hikaru's more of an attacker, so he's wanting to get kind of space by advancing his pawns, and he'll dominate the majority of these squares here. And the more pawns and pieces that infiltrate into your opponent's camp, the more space you own. And it reminds me of like a war. Chess is a war game, and so the more squares you could take, the more territory you conquer, the more you could deprive your opponent of their areas of moving and getting resources, if you want to think of it that way, if you're like really into those games. And so by doing that, you can actually deprive your opponent and you win. It's pretty cool. Yeah, there's many ways of looking at it. Like a lot of people have taken this in chess and put it into art. They've put it into business. They put it into mathematics. Like MVL is a mathematical has a mathematical doctorate. A lot of them look at it from different areas, and some people just look at it as like a masterpiece of painting. And so we're gonna continue onward. So now that we got to look into the kind of a little bit of the brain of Hikaru Nakamura there. Okay, so there's why isn't it moving? Okay, there we go. Sometimes that's the only problem with computers. Sometimes they lag. Lagging's bad. Okay, so Sergey's playing a really good move. Hikaru is wise to that, and he plays queen to e7. This is actually the best move here. This allows for the replacing of the queen. It also allows if later on Hikaru could play g6 and then play g7 here. It's really cool. This gives black a lot of flexibility with swinging. He does give up a pawn though if with this move. So you have to kind of say, is it worth it? Yeah, I'd trade mobility maybe just to get for one pawn. And so then he plays queen to h4 check here. This is actually a very good move too, because he's provoking Sergey to actually play g3 here, and that would be a strong a weakening of Sergey's position, because then there would be this huge light square diagonal just completely open in the world, and castling then would be nothing. So he plays instead of that he plays bishop f2, which is actually the best continuation. He's preparing to at this point castle and get potentially f5 in here if he can after he reroutes the bishop and everything to like g3, and then the queen retreats back. He's going to try to after castles get f5 in. And that's going to be a bone cruncher, because that'll lever open a lot of positions, a lot of moves for the queen and the bishop to get into. Queen d8, and then now he's going to try to shuffle over here. Queen attacks the rook. The rook goes back. Excuse me. Queen c2 or c4 here, with the idea they see a weakness and go for the weakness. The knight defends the weakness and is preparing to, reroute the knight into either g3 or, oops, wrong spot, g3 or into d4. We found out that this is actually a very important square, so the knight might actually jump into d4, and then white might push with c3 here and try to cement the knight, make it like unpenetrable, and then if a bishop ever tried to exchange off, the pawn would take back, and again white would get their ideal center of two pawns in the middle. So congratulations to white on that one. Bishop e7 here. This has an idea about getting after castles, of course. This has the idea of f6. Breaking the last bit of central squares open from Sergey. Rook to rook b or f to b1 is a very good move too. It's preparing to infiltrate into b8 here, trade off rooks and cause a lot of chaos, but Hikaru's got it all handled. He castles, and he's still Operation Go. So then Sergey enters with an idea of winning, trying to win one of the bishops. The queen retreats back, attacking, and preparing for the now f6 push, and then it'll be black's turn for counterplay. Bishop D. So Hikaru's rerouting everything, trying to get everything. I'd be tempted to actually. Oh, I see why he moved his bishop now. The queen's going to trade off, and so they want to be able to when the queen gets trade off, he wants his bishop here. When the queen comes off, he wants his other bishop to be there, and then he'll have ideal placement. He might even, yeah, I think that's basically what it is. He'll have this position here with these bishops. But there was a trade. The more trades that come off, it favors black because black has a better pawn structure. One second, let me get a drink and we'll get started. So there. So now it's pretty simple of an idea now. There, Hikaru's going to try to use his two bishops versus the knight and bishop. Maybe even exchange off material a little bit. This is actually that's a real tricky move. A lot of people would get tricked and grab this pawn with the rook, and if you did, you would be sadly mistaken by this here, and it would be a tide turner at that point, a game changer. You probably still could play rook a7 here. Then you'd have bishop b, and then you can play rook to bishop takes. Oh, is that right? What did I? Okay, replace that there. Bishop takes b. That's a tie. Yeah, that's a game changer because of here, and it's better for white at that point. This is actually the move that they were talking about right here, though. And at this point, you go down a whole minor piece here with bishop takes. Not good. So can't do it. So that's why rook to a7 happened there to attack this bishop. Hikaru guarded, and the g pawn comes. Now he's trying to disintegrate the last protectorate of e5. Takes. This is looking more like a draw all the way through now. In the endgame, you activate your king. And I think, let me see how many pawns. So Hikaru's got 5. Sergey's got 4. But remember, Hikaru's got 2 isolated pawns. So in theory, he has 4, if you want to think about it. He just has an extra one of these guys. That's it. H3 here. He moves back. The bishop comes in. Check. King there. I'm trying to see this. Is there anything? He had something better. Oh, bishop to e6. Why didn't? Wow, that's a very strong move. Now you're preparing to actually take this pawn. Nice. Very nice. That's a winner. That's what I say. Winner, chicken dinner. That's a winner, chicken dinner right there. If knight takes here, this is so much better for white now. This is almost completely winning. After taking here, the king actually goes to f5, and this is a game changer now. Because what's gonna happen is this pawn's gonna fall. This pawn's gonna fall up here. One of these is, and then you're gonna have 2 massive centralized pass pawns. With this is gonna be beautiful. It's a beautiful position here. Very beautiful. So, but Hikaru didn't play that. He played bishop to b5 here, and he's trying to probe with e4. It's kind of interesting. I know it looks tempting to just grab this here, but then king f5, and it's a complete draw at this point. If he tries f, you could actually just grab the pawn, and then it's equal, and it'll end in a complete draw. Sometimes we don't find the best moves like when we're he probably was low on time because he did the all this to get to move 40 to get extra time. So we moved up here. Check. Takes. So now we got to be careful about losing this pawn here. You got to be careful. This actually surprisingly, if you try to grab this pawn here, yeah, I want to see if you could see the mate in one. Do you see the mate in one? I'll let you take a second, take a look at it. Stop the video if you're watching pre-recorded to look at it. If not, you can and you want to continue watching, just let it play. And D2 is checkmate here because this pawn guards these two squares, the bishop guards here, the rook guards these two squares and attacks the king and guards right through to that square. So the king is all blocked off at this point. There's no spots for him to go. There you go. And so that's why oops, sorry, back right here he moved his king forward instead of like taking a pawn. You got to be careful when they give you stuff because I had a game where I actually was up for a piece. I had two pawns, um, and so my opponent was actually gave me. It came down to I think it was I had I had he had a rook and I had a bishop and I had three pawns and he had four pawns. So he had a rook and four pawns, and I had a rook, bishop, and three pawns. And what he was trying to do was he got his king in the corner, and I couldn't find a way to get him out. And then eventually I got my king involved, and I pushed him out, and I won that game. So praise the Lord Jesus on that. And he offered me his rook, and I'm like, why would you just give me your rook? And I'm like, this is crazy. I'm like, do I take it? And then I'm up a whole rook. And I realized he had set up a stalemate if I had taken that. He wouldn't have had any squares to move. So the best move was actually in my game to retreat my rook, to give the king one square to move. And at that point, I mobilized both my pieces, got my pawns safe, and I took all his pawns, and I eventually ended up with a rook and queen, and I won. And so that was pretty good. I checkmated like the bridge that you go up the board like that. I checkmated that way. So it was pretty fun game to when you start seeing these things, you start looking at them, your games start coming up in your mind. It's like a journey back to the olden times of the fun before stuff got really complicated. That's what my grandmaster teacher also told me was they told me that if when you start getting better, the former games, keep your older games when you start getting better, and go over the old games when you start feeling like you're not accomplishing much. Go over those, play them out on the board or on the computer, either one, whatever you prefer, and see how much farther you've become in chess. You can say, "Wow, I can't believe I played like this. I play like this now." And I play so much better, and it'll build your confidence. It'll kind of keep you going because sometimes you get into where you get stale. You feel like I'm not making any progress, but at a certain point when you're muscle building and you're body building and you're doing all these different stuff, even with losing weight and stuff, it gets to a point where it's incremental, which means you used to lose, let's say, 30 pounds. Now you're down to 5, and then after you lost those 5, you want to lose like a certain a small amount more. But it's like each pound and each muscle mass that you're wanting to build takes longer But it takes a little bit more work to get, and so you feel like you're not improving. But at the end, you get to see you have good muscles. At the other end, you get to see you're down in weight. At the other end, you get to see you're doing better in chess. You get to do all that. It's pretty cool how small incremental gains, even though it doesn't look like much, can actually make a huge difference in your life, your spiritual life, and your chess life. Okay, so rook takes e6 here. Now he could take that because, of course, you see now there's no checkmate. So if he took here, this checkmate doesn't work because he's got a pocket to escape to. So he comes up here. He's attacking the bishop and the rook. And now he's renewing the threat of potentially rook d3 here and d2. This is actually a game changer here. Surprisingly, if you thought about taking this pawn, it wouldn't. You would be losing at this point. It'd be a completely lost game. Don't feel bad. This wouldn't be the best continuation. This would be losing because all black has to do then is play rook d2 here again. And when you walk away, you grab the rook. He grabs the rook, and then now Hikaru's the one up 3.9 pawns. This is a game changer. So you have to, when you're facing these super grandmasters like that, you have to always keep in your forefront. They're not going to give you anything without a big punch. And the cool thing about in some of the martial arts, there's a principle called Aikido. Aikido is a principle where you don't block the moves, you actually divert them, but you use the energy of your opponent against them. Like if they're punching this way, you'll take their arm and you'll direct it away from you. And you see it in Karate Kid with Mr. Miyagi, and he fought those two fighters and that one fighter guy. He let the fighters actually injure themselves by directing their energy away from him. He didn't even have to hit them. They actually hurt themselves. And the same thing by this move here. This is Hikaru saying to Sergey, I want you to take this pawn. I want to give it to you. But if you eat it or you get it, then I get to push you away with rook takes, and all of a sudden, now I'm the one that's winning at this point. I'm the one taking your rook and winning the game. It all comes down to that type of way of thinking. It's a way of life, a way of thinking. So rook d2 check. He gets this in to hold on to his pawn. And this is actually a vital move here. The rook check is powerful. So the funny thing is, this one rook here on the rook has become such a pain for white throughout the game. Now it's going to be even more of a headache. And Sergey can't actually push this pawn. Otherwise, you see why the bishop hangs. So yeah, you got to be careful there. If you like what you're seeing on the podcast on Twitch, Kick, or YouTube, please click follow, subscribe, follow on the Kick or Twitch, and subscribe on YouTube. Much appreciated to all the viewers who are watching and subscribing or following. Thank you so much. So rook takes e3 check. So now they're basically equal material. He takes the other one. So this now is going to basically go down to a draw because there's not enough material to merit. Interesting thing is, I think he could actually, in theory, take this. I'm not sure. I don't know if he can actually take this pawn. We're going to just take a quick look at it. Rook d3 here. And probably king e4. King e4. Rook e check. So it's back and forth, back and forth. It'll be a perpetual because Sergey can't afford to lose this pawn. It would be a one game for Hikaru if he did. Okay, that makes sense why. He takes up. They're still jockeying for position. They must be low in time at this point. Oh, my name is Chess Cruncher on YouTube. I'll, I'll put that in for you. 1 second. It's on YouTube. That's my thing you can on. Okay, that's if you wanted to is Chess Cruncher. Okay, so that's the idea here that they're going to play. So this is basically it's going to end up a draw. We know because 1-1 these players have all these patterns in their heads, but it could be that Sergey's very low on time, and so not Hikaru Nakamura is going to try. He's like a master at doing that. Hey, not a problem, bro. Um, uh, who's a master at grinding out a win in the end game is Magnus Carlsen. He can just grind you down. One time, I think he got into a game where, and I'm not sure if he was facing Fabi or Wesley, and I think it was Fabi, and he had a rook and a knight and two pawns versus no, it wasn't. It was actually it was one of the it was the game between Ian and Magnus for the world title, the one that he won before, the one he just stepped down from this one to give to Ding. It was the one former he had. I believe it was a Ding, Nepa had a queen and a pawn, and Magnus had a rook, a knight, and I think it was three or four pawns, and he was able because I'm trying to replay it out in my mind. Sometimes I think it was game four if I'm not mistaken of that world tournament. I might be wrong. It might be game five, but it was a vital game that Nepa lost, and it really threw him into chaos at that point through the whole entire tournament because they were actually like equal at that point, 1-1. But he made a couple inaccurate moves, and Magnus was able to get his pawns walking down the board with the protection of his rook and his knight and his king, and he just made it look like so easy. But it was just amazing watching that one game. So that's why it's fun to watch the grandmasters, and I like also watching the older games, the ones like Paul Morphy, and Bobby Fischer versus Spassky and all that. Those even have some, you know, flair to them. Like Bobby Fischer he revolutionized chess in a lot of areas. So bishop takes, and now it's basically going to go to a draw. See, Sergey's going to try to win here to get Hikaru into a bad position here. Surprisingly, this went on for a little bit. We're just going through the games really moves really fast, just gently, so you could enjoy. Bishop d4 is what they're saying is actually a winning move here. Rook. This actually king e4 is actually a line that could be played. Pushing. Then there's check. Takes. And now Hikaru surprisingly survives this because there's a lot of the coordination of the king, bishop, and rook. This should almost be a one game, almost. He's trying to slowly but steadily push Hikaru back to the back rank and uses king and bishop as see what in these type of game in this type of position you're going to want to use your bishop as a long piece, block black's checks, but use it as a long piece and then eventually get your king closer and closer and closer, but constantly be blocking with your bishop, which then you can actually use your bishop and your rook at the same time. So it's kind of like you're zigzagging your king down the board, getting the enemy king closer and closer to the side of the board, and then eventually, if they make the wrong move, you can actually checkmate them here. So it's not over. See, they're just jockeying right now. There in comes the king. So first move that Sergey's trying to push for a win. Check. Now he's protecting. He's moving the king closer. You see how he's slowly but steadily trying to push the king to either here or here along somewhere along here. Oops, the side of the board. He wants this side here, this side, this side. Oh, come on, or this side, and then he's gonna bring his rook down and block off maybe the king if it gets here, and then he's gonna try to slowly get closer and closer and closer to mate. Check. There's the check. Now, if not, Hikaru tries to check on f1. He plays bishop to. See, if he checks here, which he didn't, but if he did, the bishop would come here and block. He doesn't want to trade off because if he trades, then it's insufficient material and it's a draw. So Sergey wants to try to continue to get his king into a mating box of the black and play king g6 here. And if Hikaru did check, he would play bishop to g5 here. And then there would be a threat of potential maybe back rank mate ideas. And this could actually be losing if wrongly played. But Hikaru didn't do that. He played king to, or excuse me, rook to g1. Bishop intercepts. He's trying to get the same idea of rook g6. Okay, he's blocking there. King up. Now Sergey accomplished a huge goal. That was big to be able to push back the king. But the problem is, how now do you get your king involved to back rank mate? Because this knight's a problem. This rook's going to be a problem. He might try to play king to. No, that wouldn't work. I'm trying to figure out if there would be a way that maybe he can get here, then grab a bishop, and then slowly but steadily do that. This would be a little hard to do. There we go. So he's working it. Hey, boy, it's too bad the king was there. Wouldn't we love our king to be here? Then you have this discovery and win of the rook. He keeps trying to, get some sort of one position. It feels so winning, but he just can't make any progress. Hikaru's holding wonderfully. You feel like you get so close to winning, and then all of a sudden Hikaru just slips out of the box. And then now Hikaru's king's in the center again. So this is going to completely. I think they had to go to a 50 move draw here. I think it was actually 50 moves. If you can't make any progress in 50 moves, it goes to an automatic draw. Now this is a draw here. There's no way of winning. The king's too active. The rook, other rook's too active. It's a complete draw at this point. There's nothing. And so they just keep trying. Now he accomplished again. I don't know if I would have pushed my king. I think he's forced to though because of this. Yeah, he's forced to go to the side of the board. Still a draw though. Oops, sorry about that. I'm sorry about that there. I think okay, here. Let me get back to the spot. This is it right here. Somehow my computer glitched for a second there. And so he's trying to get everything up and going. And there's just no way he can make any progress. He's trying though, you never know, your opponent might make one inaccurate move, like if they get here and then all of a sudden they get lackadaisy, you have a king here and they walk away. You could actually mate him. So never when you're in a black position like this, Hikaru, can't relax until the draw happens, because you're going to be facing tigers, and tigers are going to try to keep pushing you and burn you out. And I've faced a lot of tigers, and those are ones that you have to basically grind down because they don't give up. They've been taught there is no giving up. There's either being ground down into dust or playing until I have no more pieces, basically, and then they eventually get checkmated. It's a way of thinking. We also have to get to that type of hardness. I call it a hardness that you know, even if it looks like a lost position, you still play it out because you never know if your opponent might blunder a piece and you can actually win. So we'll just give a quick analyzing of this game here. It wasn't a perfect game. They both sides missed a lot of moves that could have turned to each other's sides. Both of them though saw a lot of them saw both of them saw moves and avoided them, so that would have been a losing for them. So what we can say is a visualization of what the position is going to be further down the road is a vital move, a vital way of thinking that we have to think. We have to think further so that when our opponent does something, we have to ask ourselves, why are they doing that? Are they really giving me a free piece, or is it a stalemate because they're in a lost position and they could save the game? Or did they just completely blunder? If they completely blundered and you sent it through your process of checking, then you could take the piece. But if it's a stalemate, which almost happened in my game, I stopped and ran it through the process that we're talking about right now, pattern recognition, and I asked myself the questions of why is my opponent doing that, first of all? Second of all, if I take it, what do I get? Third of all, when the position's all said and done, what's it going to look like? See, there's actually like a three-step process that you do. If I take it, what's going to happen? If I take it, what's it going to look like? I know it sounds the same thing, but if I take it, what is my position going to be? See, they all sound very similar, but they're in that one idea because you have to say, if I take this, my rook's letting the king off the back rank. Would that allow my opponent to get to a draw? Would I help my opponent get a draw? Or what would happen if I take, like on rook? We found out rook d2 with that Hikaru had a check. Sergey would have lost his other rook back at move, like I think it was 63, and it would have been game set match at that point. So you have to get a process, whatever process works for you, my friends. Run your moves through that. And also, there's one other one that my grandmaster teachers taught me. If you can't find a idea or a plan, look at your worst placed piece and try to develop it to its best spot. And also, if you can't find a piece, let's say you think all your pieces are at their best spots, there's also one other thing that you could do. You can look to see what squares that piece or pawn that your opponent moved gave away, which means in the Aikido principle, which would be Maurice Ashley talked about it, drawback chess, every move has a drawback. So if you can see the drawback and you can emphasize it, you'll start slowly but steadily getting better. And also, one of my grandmaster teachers, and I'll leave you with this, and then we'll say adieu on that. Is this: you will get better the more you study, and you will improve with practice and time. And you just have to keep pushing forward on that and being okay with it. And just realize that it's not an overnight, you know, adrenaline rush that you're gonna boom like that. It takes day after day after day. And that's a little bit of knowledge I wanted to share with you of a lot of hard work that I went through so that you can benefit from the knowledge that I acquired. Okay, wanted to thank you guys all for being on here, and on all the streams, the Twitch, the YouTube, and the Kick stream. Thank you, everybody. And thank you again for subbing and following. Much appreciated. And you remember the whole thing that we always talk about Bruce Lee is you have to, knowing is not enough, you must apply, and willing is not enough, you must do. And if you don't take what you know and apply it, then you're using the gift that the Lord has given you. If you don't take what you have and then apply it, then you're not are not doing it. If you're not doing it, then you're not using what the gifts the Lord has given you. And the ultimate decision inside of chess is decisions of a person. And there's one decision we all have to make one day. Whom will we serve? And it's an eternal decision. Will we receive the Lord Jesus, Lord and Savior of our life? It's like a decision on a board. If you make the wrong decision, it could cost you a whole entire rook, like what would have happened to Sergey. If we make the wrong eternal decision, it could cost us an eternal decisional problem. So just today, think about that. Consider it. Consider that choice. Put it in your mind and just think about it. I appreciate y'all logging on. Great job. 5 stars. Great job today, my friends. And I'll see you next time on Chess Cruncher TV. Be blessed. Have a great morning, evening, or afternoon, or wherever you are. Honor the Lord, and I'll see you next time, my friends. Be blessed. Bye bye.